Fantasy X-2 has always confused me. It was the very first video game of the franchise to be a direct sequel to another one of the games, a sequel to Final Fantasy X. What always confused me was that Final Fantasy X really didn't seem like it needed a sequel. I mean, everything was kind of resolved at the end for the most part. Sure, there were a couple of questions, but most games always have them. So when X2 came out, I kinda had to pick it up just out of curiosity, just to see how they thought Final Fantasy X actually needed a sequel. Was X2 any good? Well, let's dig into the game and find out. First thing I want to talk about are the graphics. For the PS2, the pre-rendered sequences are very good looking. Most of them actually looking as good as, if not better than, some of the sequences we have on the PS3, the 360, or the PC now. Every so often there's a little bit of aliasing popping up, but otherwise nothing too big to nag on. The in-game graphics are also pretty good as well, with almost every area in the game being brought back from Final Fantasy X. So if you've played 10, you'll recognize almost everything that Spira has to offer. Most of the new areas are just sections of the far plane, or dungeons that weren't available in the first title. My only big issue with the graphics is that if you're in a dark area in this game, it's dark to the point where most of the time you can't even see who you're fighting, or where you're walking. The story of the game really centers around Riku, Yuna, and Pain, the only three characters you get in the game, as they travel through Spira, being spear hunters and trying to gather as many spheres as they can. This search started when Yuna found a video sphere with what appeared to have Tidus on it. Throughout the game, you find very weird people, you get into a few sticky situations, but as you progress, the bigger plot does gradually unfold around you, as unlike Final Fantasy X, the big baddie of the game isn't obvious at the beginning. Unfortunately, the plot of this game leaves some glaring holes in the story of Final Fantasy X. A lot of these issues actually centered around the introduction of Shuyin, who if you've played this game, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Even without the plot holes, X2's own individual plot just doesn't make any sense. And the answers and resolutions given for the issues you face throughout the game aren't any easier to accept. A one-song concert in the Thunder Plains is supposed to make a world that hates each other suddenly love each other? And it works? What? Besides that, when it comes to the actual gameplay of the game though, I actually enjoy that. The sphere grid is basically a job system, and being able to equip different garment grids with different spheres leaves a variable to what you're actually able to do during battle, which is great. However, if you have Pain on Dark Knight and Riku on Alchemist, you're essentially putting the game on easy mode. While the sphere grid is good, it's not the most balanced thing in the world, leaving some combinations incredibly powerful and others being a broken mess. Throughout the game you level up in two ways. There's experience that you earn from enemies as you kill them in battle, which increases your overall stats as you level up. However, there's also AP, which is used to level up your dress spheres, and that can be a little complicated. To gain AP, you only gain 1 AP per kill during a battle. However, you also get 1 AP per use of abilities with a dress sphere. However, the ability cannot be attack or item. It must be a specific ability of the dress sphere. So most of the time, you can only get a couple of AP out of battles, when some abilities for dress spheres take 100 or more to unlock. However, what you can do is set up an infinite loop. If you encounter enemies such as elementals, get it to where there's only one left and cast Reflect. Its spells will cast back at it and heal it, while you can use abilities that do little to no damage at all and gain 1 AP for each use, while it heals itself for whatever damage you did. You can exploit this to level up a lot of your dress spheres very fast, and I'll admit, it's the quickest way to get things done. Aside from that, the battle system is an ATB, or Active Time Battle System, and a fast one at that, and it really keeps you on your toes. Being slow on decisions during battle can mean the death of your party, so you have to be a quick thinker with this game. Also, there is just an abundance of optional stuff to do in this game, to the point that you can actually beat the boss, win the game, and only have 50% completion or even less. There's extra dungeons, there's minigames, blitzball, sphere break, digging in the Albed Desert. You can go get extra dress spheres, extra garment grids. There's a ton of stuff to do. However, with the terrible plot, Even with the really good gameplay, it left me in no mood to go do anything that was optional, and instead just proceed through the game as quickly as I could just to get it over with. Let's not forget about the audio of the game, however. The music is split into two parts, music from Final Fantasy X and new music for Final Fantasy X-2. I like all the songs in Final Fantasy X that reprise their role here. Every X-2 song, however, aside from a couple at the end game area, are just awful, at least to me. Everything is super upbeat, very poppy sounding, which later on in the game feels very out of place. And a lot of new songs are extremely overused. Yuna also sings two of the songs in the game. One of them pretty good, the other, featured in the intro, not so much. The voice work in this game is also just awful. Any emotion in the voices sounds so forced. Even the lack of emotion in Pain's voice doesn't sound right. A lot of dialogue is extremely wooden, but not all of it is the voice actor's fault. The game script itself is nothing to write home about, with phrases like pre-concert Hurtfest time really making you cringe when it's spoken. Overall, Final Fantasy X-2 is a mess. It's got a terrible plot, terrible scripting, bad music, the minigames are no fun at all, and there's movie and TV quotes all over the place that make no sense. The only redeeming qualities of this game is the length of it, that will push over 100 hours easily if you do all the stuff in the game, and the really good combat system. While the combat is really good, everything else just isn't up to par. So I have to rate this game a 5 out of 10. A good RPG consists of a good story and a good combat system, not just one. I would like to see this combat system reused, however, maybe in a new Final Fantasy. Maybe in a new one we could see this combat system instead of the auto-battling we got last time.